Welcome, folks, to the January 24th, 2024 Aries Working Group call. We have a bunch of cool discussion items on the menu today with PR review and RC stats changes. It's a Hyperledger meeting, and so the antitrust policy and the code of conduct are in effect. Links to those are in the agenda. The agenda link can be found in the chat. And of course, on the Hyperledger wiki, you're welcome to make any changes that you would like that are useful to the community directly to the wiki itself. Is there anyone new today that would like to introduce themselves or reintroduce themselves? I'm glad you're all here. I've still got the SD Jot and Rust announcement here that landed an open wallet. Any action items on this or any other announcements that we should have on the list but don't? All right, so that's been there for at least a week. Any work updates want to be, do folks want to share any work updates within Aries or related?
Hey Sam, we released Aries Cloud Agent Python 0.12.0 RC0 yesterday. So that is now out and available and enables, it contains 53 PRs that have been merged since 0.11 went out. Nothing breaking yet, but we do have one that will be in this release. So that's why the bump to 12. Lots of enhancements and fixes. Period support is the big one. We did do a check on what we've got left for AIP2, and we're down to very, very little. So this could we might shift it to be called 1.0 after it finalizes. So we might do a quick follow as the 1.00. Why we've never done a 1.00 is because we're lousy at marketing, but there you go.
Nice. I don't know why this is not showing me updates. Hit save
What's not
again.
showing you updates?
I don't know. The page doesn't seem to be showing me updates.
Yeah,
It says your
I
changes
made
will be
updates.
merged with theirs. You've made updates. Are they showing here?
Nope. Weird.
That's weird.
That doesn't usually happen there. I just saved them. Oh well.
Well, let me. If I hit refresh, this is
There
weird.
now.
It's never acted this way before. Yep, there you go. Okay, I was wondering why you were telling me things that you normally have typed in, which is awesome, but that's helpful. Okay. Thank you, Stephen. Other updates that folks want to add? Really hope we don't lose the live edit capability inside of the wiki. That was one of the main useful things that it provided. Okay. Discussion topics. I wanted to get a report, Stephen, from you on the annual report. And then I have picked off of the top of the PR list 4 PRs, one of which will be really quick. This is the status update on the unqualified DIDS community coordinated update, and then other ones that are here and need discussion. Some have already had discussion in the PRs, and some have not. Any other items that ought to be on our agenda, or any other adjustments or changes we want to make before we get going? All right, Stephen, any update on the annual report?
Just that it's there. I think I talked about it last week. I know I've been talking about it on the Indie Aries and non-creds calls. So this is out there. Please review it and make any changes you want either directly in it. There's full edit rights, but if you want to ask questions or do it as a comments as well, do that. I will probably on Monday, shift it to being a PR. I'm not sure what day we're due, but shift it to be a PR into GitHub. So I'd like to get the updates in. I'll wait one more week to do that, since the reports aren't actually due quite yet. But do encourage everyone to take a look at those. Patrick, I didn't put anything specific from Aries VCX other than the more general things for Aries and the things we talked about, particularly on the call that Sam organized earlier, but welcome anything you see for Aries VCX as well. Some things are quite generic there, so all good. And yeah, that's about all I have for that. Don't have too much to say other than encourage people to take a look. There will be a meeting in a couple of weeks that will be highlighting the three projects at the TOC. They're Thursday mornings at this time, at least Thursday mornings my time, Thursday at this time, and welcome participation from community members to join that meeting and hear the questions that the TOC has.
Stephen, thank you for your work there, and let's back them up with good review and input, so that's nice and ready to present. Stephen, appreciate your legwork on all of that. Very good.
Cool.
Okay. I've picked four. By the way, I've picked four because I'm unaware of others that folks have suggested that we talk about. I'm very happy to, in any of these conversations, to address topics or surface or discuss things that that are important to anyone. So in the absence of that, I try to go looking and pick things, but I know I don't always do a great job or pick the highest priority things. So input is always welcome there. But I've picked four of our recent PRs here. The first one is just the one that I promised last week that's relatively light. But then three other pretty meaty topics that exist in PRs to discuss and make good progress on. So so that's what I've got. Any adjustments there before we dive in? Okay. This I promised last week on the community coordinated update. We should have, according to our own documentation within the PR, that we are past the pre-work stage and then into phase one. And so, given that, then we're supposed to move it to accepted, and then I've indicated that we're in step one with the target deployment date listed here. And so, and I just and a typo that I fixed there. Any feedback on this PR? Any reason we should not merge it to more accurately represent where we are?
Sam, I do think that since this is a leap year, you should change that to the 29th.
That's fantastic, and I forgot this was a leap year, but that's funny. Well, we're gonna have to definitely probably adjust these dates. Definitely, probably you like that. We're probably gonna have to adjust these dates anyway, and we can certainly take that under consideration. At this point, I was just trying to focus on the status change. Yeah, that's gonna be funny. Cool. Any reason we should not deploy this change? This update to that PR. Awesome. Stephen, can I lean on you to do that?
I will do that. It's just clicking into it.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Next up is the W3C DI attachment. This is a PR by Timo that's nice and lengthy here. There has been some conversation on this. I know Stephen, you have supplied some feedback in here, if I remember right. And other feedback has happened here. And I've got sort of a last week comment here from you, Stephen. I was hoping to give a quick overview and then just discussion and anything else that we can apply to move this forward. Let's see. I want to expand this one. So this is an attachment format for data integrity attachments. And this is, and I need some backup here. Um, there's been some previous work done here, and then the W3C has data integrity proofs is linked here, and then of course the VC data model. The goal of um, this RFC is to document an attachment format for the data integrity format as offered by the W3C, and that includes specification of binding methods and some credential information and all these things. And so this is an offer, a credential offer in that particular way, and there's descriptions, of course, here. And then there's also a format for the request. There's a data integrity VC request format that also is included here. Um, and then and the example is given here on applying that to the actual issuance of the credential itself in the examples here. There's also discussion of binding methods, meaning non-creds link secrets, and there is support within the format for other methods as well, including like binding in the credential with values of that relate specifically to the user. And so this is all um, this is all in here and documented nicely. Anything that I got wrong in my summary or that needs better review?
A little more context would be that this evolves, I believe it is 453, which is the linked data proof. So data integrity proofs are the evolution of linked data proofs, which is the original way to do JSON LD verifiable credentials. So this this adjusts that. Allowing, as you noted, adds in the offer, which was not part of the LDP, the linked data proof attachments, and includes these binding methods. And the binding method, you mentioned the one, so the binding method is for a non-creds is just what comes over in the offer and the request. So they're the same data elements that come across in those. So they're nicely embedded in this. The other one, though, is proving that you control a DID or an identifier, a DID for an identifier for the credential subject. And so that's the one that allows where there's a signed attachment. So basically, you're proving you have the private key associated with the DID that is going to be used as the credential subject. And so that allows both of those. What that further does is allows you to actually issue a credential with both an anon-cred and a non-anon-creds signature on a single credential, which is quite an interesting capability and quite useful. So yeah, so implementation is happening right now in Credo, the new name for AFJ, and in Akapai. And so my thought is we just leave it until those implementations are done, see if anything falls out of what comes out of this, and then we can make adjustments and merge it at that time. We're going ahead with the implementation anyway. So suggestion is to be aware of it and go from there.
So your recommendation is that we make it all the way through the implementation phase before we.
Well, we're already in the middle of implementation, and so that's why I was thinking that. Yeah, well, just in case we see anything that comes up, we don't have to worry about clarifying or if it breaks a version, we can just wait a little bit.
Excellent. Any questions on this PR? Comments, anything?
In the non-creds meeting, we did talk about how this gets used. So what the implementation is going to look like, what triggers the issuance of, for example, in a non-creds in W3C format, a non-creds credential in W3C format, which is basically that the offer includes this attachment. That's the trigger.
Okay, that sounds good. I will add the commentary that this is the documentation of the attachment
Yep.
format. There's other work like Stephen's talking about to document, the triggers and the other related pieces, so that we know kind of how it applies.
The other very cool thing that Timo did was he made a full set of test vectors of a real life example of all of these, including, what the private key is behind it and so on. So we've got a repo that has the full set
Very cool.
of data objects.
That makes testing substantially easier.
Yeah, it also makes understanding it and going forward a lot easier. Yeah.
Excellent.
Seeing it is a lot easier.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? At this point, Stephen, it seems like waiting for both feedback that has been Timo has acknowledged, and then your implementation learnings is kind of what's next for this RFC.
Yep. Yep. It's really impressive work. I'm really glad Timo jumped in and took the initiative on this one. It's a good one.
It's very well written, very well prepared.
Yep.
So it's excellent work by Timo there. Okay, I'm going to add that comment to this RFC. This is not, by the way, to clarify, I don't think this is a merge party. This is a let's move things forward party.
Exactly.
And so there is no defeat in leaving PRs open, just so that we support them in the ways that they need to be.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was the other one I opened up. Next up is 804. This is the RPC protocol for app attestation and more.
Yes.
So let me give a quick summary, Stephen, and then you can correct anything that I get wrong. This started out being more directly applied to app attestation, and via conversation in a previous Aries working group call was clarified to be a definition of JSON RPC over DIDCOM. And so the PR still says app attestation and more, which is not exactly inaccurate, but it's very the RFC at this point is very focused on RPC and describes how to pass JSON RPC stuff back and forth through this. One of the interesting benefits of doing so is that you can JSON RPC in directions that are not typically done. For example, you could JSON RPC from a web server to a phone as a client in ways that are not typically done, and that way the phone acts as the server and the web server acts as the client, and that's possible to do, of course, because that's what DIDCOM allows. And so that's one of the interesting abilities there. But this describes generically how to pass JSON RPC stuff back and forth, and at this point doesn't actually talk about app attestation at all, which is fine. And I think that focus is a good one. Any commentary or correction there, Stephen?
Slightly. Let me tell you where we evolved. We always intended it to be a generic function with app attestation on it. I think the push we got back, two things came out of the last time we talked about this. One was, wow, we should probably have an app attestation protocol itself. And so we may over time shift to that there's actually, a new protocol that is app attestation itself, as opposed to just using RPC as a bridge to enable it. But that'll be a separate one. The second thing that came out of that was the suggestion we use JSON RPC, which I didn't even think of. I had come up with my own bespoke data structure for this. And when I looked at JSON RPC, I just went, whoa, that's so cool. That's so easy. So that's how we shifted heavily into using JSON RPC for this. Super nice, simple protocol. And Sam, I hadn't thought of what you said, but it really is a powerful thing that because these are peers, the traditional server side the enterprise side can actually initiate it because they have a connection with over DIDCOM. And so it becomes a possibility to go either way, which is actually how it will be used for app attestation, interestingly. Yeah, so it uses JSON RPC now is the design. Somebody also suggested the Google web. What's that?
Protobufs.
Protobufs. Yeah, yeah. And that was just too heavy. So I did a brief look at that and went, oh man, that's heavy. And then I looked at this and went, oh, this is way better. So I think this fits very nicely. That pair right in the middle of the screen is what a request and a response looks like. And so this protocol is simply a request response protocol, with the idea being that it's really the two controllers that are talking. Akapai or Credo or Aries VCX, they're just a conduit and just passing the things back and forth. So all that the Aries component is doing is doing the coordination, the conducting of the messages back and forth. Its intention is that you're passing it from one controller on one side to the other controller on the other side to do the work and then get the result back. So it's a request response pair. And like the previous one we just talked about, we've got an implementation in process. We should have an Akapai implementation done in the next couple of days. Akif is working on it and is almost finished. He's having more questions about where to put it in Akapai since he's new in that versus what RPC does or how to make it work. So it's going well. We should have an implementation, and again, use that as feedback before we want to merge this one. Let's get any learnings from doing an implementation first.
Thank you, Stephen, for that update. Any comments, questions?
For those wondering about the app attestation side of it, so this is for a mobile app to interact with the Play stores to get an attestation that the app is the real one, or at least to tie the app to the publisher, the app that you're talking to the actual publisher. That has been implemented, so it's available been implemented in BC Wallet at least. I'm not sure whether it's in Bifold as well. It might be, but it used basic message as the first cut to just implement something so we could experiment with it. So that's been done. So once we get this, we'll just switch over the implementation to use this new protocol. And it's being implemented in Credo as well.
Awesome. The in our previous conversation, we had there was a sort of an open-ended task to write more about when a tunneling protocol ought to be used instead of just a native protocol itself.
Yeah.
That has not happened, and within this RFC is also not really the right place to put that, since it's a higher level topic.
Yeah.
And that applies to lots of things. I can imagine, because of the direction reversal we've talked about, that there's an opportunity for things to be tunneled in a variety of ways, and so having some general advice there would be good. That's still on my list, but hasn't been done. Cool. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? All right, I'll add that comment. Next up is the trust input protocol, and this was submitted by Matthew and discusses this defines a protocol for communication between DIDCOM parties about foundations of trust. And so a little bit down here is the interesting part. So here's trust input, and here's a query where you're asking about issuance and you're asking about a particular credential. So here's the issuer of the DID, for example, the format and the schema. I think this may not be schema, but the asking the fundamentally asking about whether the other party thinks this is an authoritative source. Um, and then there's a response which can include information, including what the status is, the status as of, according to which governance framework, for example, can also be useful there, so they can sort of back up the decision for their reasons there, and then some considerations there. This is interesting for a couple of reasons. There's some related work here, and linked is the trust over IP trust registry protocol, but which defines no DIDCOM protocol for interaction with. And this kind of acknowledges that this could be used as a DIDCOM way of interacting, for the same purpose with another party. So this could be a supplementary protocol there. This also can relate a little bit to the credential trust establishment work at the DIF. And the other name that we've used historically for that is machine readable governance, where rather than an API-based approach like the trust over IP's trust registry protocol, that this can that it's like a signed file that's published by an ecosystem coordinator to make that work. So this defines that protocol back and forth. The interesting thing, of course, about this being a DIDCOM protocol is that there's the potential that you actually ask not necessarily the authoritative source, but you ask a peer. So you could ask a peer who opinions you've decided to trust, or at least ask for and evaluate what they think about this particular action there. And so that's an interesting opportunity for one peer to ask another peer to gather some input from that using the same defined protocol. The inclusion of the reasons why in here in the response and according to what governance are interesting, because it can definitely help apply in that particular vein, so that you can get reasons why they think that. It's worth noting that in the process of using this, you're actually disclosing a little bit of information to the other party, meaning it's clear when you ask this question that you actually have been presented a credential of this type by this issuer, and you are evaluating its trustworthiness. You're not necessarily including any unique data. This one looks like it links to a very specific credential in the example here, but in theory this could be simply a schema that you're asking about, and so you're not identifying which credential you're evaluating, just that you are evaluating one within the other parameters that have been discussing. This PR has no comments on it. One that I need to add is that it defines a credential format and maps between numbers and then the actual format here. I think that actually including a set of values like this, rather than one just including a non-creds, for example, might be a little bit clearer, and make it just a slightly simpler protocol for that. It's a tiny bit more verbose, but not to great length. And so I think that might be a value or a way to make the protocol itself clearer. That's my summary. Any corrections, comments, questions, reviews, anything about this particular PR? There have been none in the on the PR itself. Any comments, questions, thoughts at all about this RFC? Okay, add that comment, which I needed to add anyway. And that's the last of the four that I had pre-selected for discussion today. Are there other RFCs that folks would like to discuss that exist in the Aries RFC repo? Okay, so the next thing on the agenda that I had selected, this is less of an action item today, but more of a promise for future ones. We've talked in the past couple meetings about the necessity to improve a handful of things about the Aries RFC repository, and thank you, Stephen, for merging that one. One of them is that it's relatively not very navigable by folks that come here, but the other one is that we have of course, statuses that are set on our set by RFC, and then this index is generated. And so we have, as a status, we have adopted, we have accepted, we have demonstrated, and we have proposed. And then we also have retired. And so these are the statuses that are there. It's been a while since we've had a review of the statuses of each of these. And this is helpful to help people know, for example, things that aren't really applicable anymore. But even though they were historically. And so as part of the effort to render this in a better way, having a clearer update on the status of these various RFCs will help folks that to come and understand kind of where we are on things. And so I heavily suspect that there's a lot that needs to move up in the sense that proposed needs to move to demonstrated, demonstrated to accepted, and then and as well some to adopted, and some all the way down to retired, to kind of help that happen. And so the goal here is that we take a look at this and then decide as a community on what those statuses ought to be, so that we can make the associated change and then make both this index sort of, but also better information available when we do engage in generating a site that documents these as how they are. There's a ton of really good work in these RFCs, and a lot of really interesting things that have happened. But helping people helping to organize these things will be pretty darn helpful. So that's my pitch. And what I think we ought to do as a community is recommend those that we think need a status change. I think we can review that as a community. I expect most of those conversations to be relatively brief, and then we can make the associated status change. This can, of course, be done by submitting pull requests with that status change as well. But I think that we might be able to make some pretty good progress just as a community in making those associated changes. Perhaps do them somewhat in a batch if we find that to be useful. Any comments or questions about this effort and the process involved?
It's a good idea and long overdue.
It's decidedly long overdue.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do in the future is pick a day where we go through and evaluate what these are. We evaluate what the and we take these and have suggestions. So in that vein, if you happen to take a look and be aware of RFCs that do need a status update, and can propose those, then that would be a really useful thing to move forward. I'll of course try and help that process along as well. But as I mentioned before, I don't always get priorities and things right, and so this would be a really useful thing to have some help on, so that we can raise them and then have discussions about what needs to happen there. So yes. And I wasn't planning on launching into that today, mostly because I just haven't had time to get my notes and awareness done on this particular topic. But that's definitely work that needs to happen. And I definitely think I'm not seeing live updates, by the way, which is really frustrating to me. And so I need to figure out what's going on with the wiki and how to get the live updates on the wiki page back, because that's a really important piece there. Little peripheral, but still matters for the meeting. Okay, given that, we've got some time for open discussion, which actually rarely happens at our meeting. Are there any topics that folks want to bring up, questions to raise, things to talk about in future meetings, stuff that we should be paying attention to but are not? Any discussions of meeting adjustments or other sorts of activities within the Aries working group? Yes, Subasis, is that how I say your name?
Yeah, you got it perfect. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm just a very quick question. Just wanted to know if anybody has worked on interoperability between Akapai and Varamo.
I think that's a DITCOM 1, DITCOM 2 issue. So I don't think so, but very interested.
But specifically, Akapai is still on DIDCOM v1
Yes.
and does not yet have v2 support, and Verimo
Yeah.
is DIDCOM v2 only.
Yeah.
Right.
If you look at the Veramo website, they list Wacky DIDCOM as a compatible profile. But DIDCOM Wacky, I can't remember which way it goes.
I think
Yeah,
it's
so
Wacky
that's
DIDCOM,
V2.
but yeah, and that's v2.
It is V2, yeah. That's the profile they seem to have built to.
There is a lot of desire in bringing Akapai into the DIDCOM v2 world. And so I know that will happen. But I don't have a timeline on that.
Yeah. So am I understanding this correctly that DITCOM v2 is not backward compatible to v1?
It's
Yes.
not.
Yeah.
It's very similar in concept, but there are breaking changes between the two protocols.
Okay. Okay, so then that means it doesn't talk to each other. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
That's correct. But I would love that to occur. That would also bring DIDCOM v2 into Akapai would also enable, for example, interactions with the DIDCOM demo, which is DIDCOM v2 based.
Yeah.
And so there's a handful of benefits to bring that to Akapai.
Okay, thank you.
Great question, though.
One other thing that I got word from Sheldon Regular, who looks over, does a lot of the testing, has been focused mainly on bifold testing, but testing on AATH. He's added a bunch of peer did tests and things like that. We need a bit of a rework or an improvement to the Credo back channel. Aries frame or the AFJ back channel. And so if anyone has would like to contribute there, that would be very welcome. We just need to be able to there's a few things that were added to Akapai that makes it easier to run a class of tests. And so he's is looking to get those added to AFJ. Has to do in particular with restarting they all run in Docker containers, and being able to restart the agents with different parameters so that it can run for instance, a test where it issues a did peer 1 and then run another test where it's set up to issue a did peer 2, and those tend to be require resets of the agent to launch them in different configurations. So that's the type of work that's needed. So if anyone's interested and would like to make a contribution there for helping with interoperability, that would be a good place to go. Get in touch with me or Sheldon, and we can help you out at getting going.
I've attempted to capture that
Yep.
on the
Looks
screen.
good.
Helen, your hand's up.
Yeah, I just was wondering if this would be a good time to bring up, I can't, the idea of doing an interopathon at some point. I think we talked about it on our last call, and there was a suggestion there should be a greater Aries presence at, I forget the name of the event off the top of my head. But I don't think we settled on if doing a interopathon where folks from the community can come together and test against each other, quasi informally, would be something that anybody would be interested in participating in, or if we held it, people would want to do it.
I think that would be ideally targeted around a thing we're trying to accomplish, some sort of milestone. Stephen, you mentioned approaching AIPv2 compatibility, and so that's certainly one option to see how much we can do there. The other one on my radar, although I don't know the timing of this, is a DIDCOM v2 interopathon within Aries. Along the process of DIDCOM v2 adoption, I think would be another one, but that one's a little hard to predict the timing on. Thoughts from folks? Yeah, thanks for the name of that, Daniel.
I wonder if we
Got the
could
JFF part, but not the Plugfest.
I wonder if we could put out do a survey or something and list a couple different options for what people might want to test. Maybe they just want to test making connections and sharing credentials or something. I don't know. Like, it depends, whatever level of sort of development folks are in. And then we can kind of narrow down a list to like a couple of things, like these are the, 2 or 3 things we're going to be focusing on for this particular event. So I don't know, just getting more kind of community interest or information feedback for what would be a good what would make for a good interopathon.
I think that's a great idea. Also for like dates, I was thinking generally, not specifically at this point, but like at what point do we want to hit this? Is this like a Q1 thing? Is this a Q3 thing? Something, to try and hit that and be a target, I think would be a useful thing to survey the community on.
Yeah, I mean, ideally we would do one, I don't know, maybe H1, H2 or something like that, like do 2 a year. They do take a bit of effort to put together just administratively. But they're great. They're great opportunities to spotlight Aries and what people are doing and the cool stuff that Aries enables. And it's, really great and in terms of kind of marketing and public relations. So, doing this type of event, it really brings people out of the woodworks and brings them together. So, maybe like beginning of March or something, it would give us enough time to kind of, get people registered and get people set up and all that. We can talk about it further in the marketing call, which is next week on Tuesday. If anybody else would like to talk further about this, topic, we could at least start penciling, outlining what the event would be and, the necessities and stuff to make it happen. So please join us on the marketing call next Tuesday.
Excellent. Thank you, Helen. Other thoughts, topics, open discussion? Jorge, your hand is up.
I have a really really dumb question. Uh, so if I'm understanding correctly, DITCOM V2, um, both Akapai and Cradle are implementations. Most of the protocols are on DITCOM V1. Do is is there expectation that at some point in the future all those protocols would be implemented so that they are re-implemented with DITCOM V2 as the underlying protocol?
Yes, with a star, yes with an asterisk on it. Not all protocols need to be updated. The most of them that need to be updated involve attachments. The attachment format has shifted between V1 and V2. It's gotten simpler. So anyone using, there were 3 options for attachments in DIDCOM V1 and only 1 in V2. And so anything that used not the one that was selected will need some adaptation there. And there was a couple other minor changes that involve updates, but not all of them will need that. There'll definitely need to be a review though to help that along and make that happen. For example, Timo's work, if I remember right, where he's talking about the attachments, he actually uses the attachment format that works in DIDCOM V2 so that it doesn't need an update when that actually happens. The actual message processing, of course, will need to be a little different, and so implementations may decide to completely separate message processing between DIDCOM V1 and DIDCOM V2, but the protocols themselves will not necessarily need to be updated.
Okay. And so in theory, we could have compatibility for both.
Yes. We haven't gotten into the implementation details of supporting both V1 and V2 in most of the projects, and including Akapai yet. In theory, it's possible to support both with the same message handlers. It's definitely possible to support both, but by having DIDCOM V2 message handlers as opposed to split the message handling entirely, which means that if you supported one protocol in both of them, you would just simply have 2 of them. That's not a bad approach, given that the lifetime of V1 is not infinite. When V2 adoption happens, then there'll be some sort of community expectations around the deprecation of V1, and then that will vanish, and so that's not going to be an infinite maintenance issue.
Yeah. Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, it's good for just roadmap planning. Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
There is some needed discussion on the credential related protocols, as they heavily use attachments. We have a DIDCOM or an issue credential in present proof v3 that was defined as part of the wacky DIDCOM effort. And so those need to be revisited to see what we do there. There's also some open discussion about the dot releases of 2.1 and .2 of those protocols, and about whether they should be or should not be carried on to the version 3 of the protocol. And so yeah. Daniel has some comments in the chat here about opting to have a completely separate implementations with experience.
On top of that, part of that experience involves the fact that there are different protocol versions for things. For example, coordinate mediation. The earlier protocols, like V1 of coordinate mediation, was DIDCOM 1 specific, whereas V3 is DIDCOM 2 specific.
Right. And so not all protocols will work with both versions of it. So even if you did the same message handling, you'd want to handle that difference. Cool. Other topics, thoughts, questions, comments? It's been super good. We don't often have enough empty space at the end of a call for open discussion like this, and so stuff bubbles out really nicely, and that's fantastic. All right, folks, we've got 5 minutes left at the end of the hour, so you have a brief time for like a drink or a bathroom visit for the next call for those of us in marathon calls today. Thanks for coming. Appreciate your involvement, and we'll move along with the RSC status changes and other work in the future. As always, if you have topics or things that you would like brought to the front of the agenda, or discussed, or anything, even if you don't want to present on it, but you would like it discussed, please reach out. We'll definitely make that happen. And with that, I wish you all a continued wonderful week, and we will see you elsewhere and next week.
Thank you.